The latest. Thank you for your love and support. I appreciate you all. Africa is fighting back. The African is saying that we will no longer sit down waiting for other people to come into the continent to set us free. We need to start doing things on our own because we've seen that if we don't fight to protect ourselves, people will continue to use the African to his or her advantage. So for that matter, now Africans are wide awoken. Somalia roasted Israel. On the 26th of December 2025, the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, came out recognizing Somaliland as an independent state. So during the UN Security Council, Somalia decided to put Israel where it belongs. According to some of the things that Israel cited, that there is genocide in Somalia, and that is the reason to which the people in Somaliland decided to create their own independent state so they can protect themselves. And they want to also help Somaliland to be free from genocide because they don't want them to suffer. And Somalia is saying that who is talking? See who is calling who what? You are talking about genocide. Who is committing genocide in other places? According to Somalia, Israel doesn't know what they are talking about because they are the ones that are making sure they unalive other people, health workers, children, women, starvation, like a whole lot of things. That the things that Israel is doing to other people, they are not in the position to be pointing fingers at Somalia. And that Somalia, there is no genocide. That it is a fabricated story by other people who are trying their best to separate them.
G. Harry for his briefing here this afternoon. I wish to make it clear, Israel's engagement with Somaliland has a long and consistent record. In 1960, when Somaliland emerged as an independent state, Israel was among 35 countries that formally recognized its independence. In the late 1980s, under the regime of Siad Barre, Somaliland's civilian population was subjected to mass atrocities. Entire cities were destroyed, civilians were deliberately targeted. These crimes are now widely recognized as the Isaac genocide. At the time, Israel was the only country to formally raise these atrocities in this very council. On May 2nd, 1990, Israel's then acting permanent representative, Yohanan Bain, submitted this letter to this very council, warning of grave human rights violations in Somalia, including the destruction of Hargeisa and the targeting of civilians. This document forms part of the official record of the Security Council. That record underscores the consistency of Israel's engagement, grounded in concern for human rights, accountability, and legal principles. That history provides essential context for the discussion surrounding Israel's recognition of Somaliland today. Let me be clear, Israel's recognition of Somaliland is neither provocative nor novel. It is a lawful, principled acknowledgement of a long-established reality, consistent with international law and aligned with the values that this Council is meant to uphold. Mr. President, Somaliland's modern political history is clear and well documented. On June 26, 1960, the former British Somaliland Protectorate attained independence as the state of Somaliland. In the days that followed, prior to its voluntary union with the Trust Territory of Somalia on July 1, 1960, Somaliland was recognized by 35 states, including the United States, the United Kingdom, France, China, Egypt, Ethiopia, the Soviet Union, and Israel. Somaliland entered that union as a recognized sovereign entity, exercising its right to self-determination. That union failed to produce a durable or fully ratified constitutional settlement. Political marginalization, repression, and mass violence followed. When the Somali central government collapsed, Somaliland reasserted its sovereignty in May 1991. For more than 3 decades since, it has existed entirely outside the authority of Mogadishu. Since 1991, Somaliland has consistently met the objective criteria for statehood under customary international law, as reflected in the Montevideo Convention. 1, it has a permanent population. 2, a defined territory. 3, an effective government. 4, the capacity to conduct foreign relations. In fact, Somaliland has held regular competitive elections, ensured peaceful transfers of power, and maintained effective governance and security throughout its territory. In a region marked by instability, Somaliland has demonstrated continuity, responsibility, and restraint. Moreover, Somaliland's engagement with the international community is already sustained and practical. Several states maintain representative, liaison, or economic officers in Hargeisa. These relationships reflect ongoing diplomatic, economic, and development cooperation. They also reflect an acknowledgement in practice of Somaliland's capacity to govern responsibly. Israel's recognition builds on this reality. This step was taken as an exercise of sovereign authority, consistent with international law and long-standing diplomatic practice. It is not a hostile step towards Somalia, nor does it preclude future dialogue between the parties. Recognition is not an act of defiance. It is an opportunity to promote clarity, an opportunity to encourage responsibility, an opportunity to strengthen stability in the Horn of Africa. This recognition is forward-looking. It aligns with the spirit of the Abraham Accords: cooperation over isolation, pragmatism over paralysis, and partnership over perpetual conflict. Somaliland has demonstrated a willingness to govern responsibly, to secure itself, and to engage constructively with regional and international partners. This trajectory is also not without precedent. In the case of South Sudan, early engagement by individual states, including Israel, preceded broad international recognition and supported international integration and stability. Reality was acknowledged first. Consensus followed. Mr. President, the question raised by Israel's recognition of Somaliland is not whether international law permits acknowledgement of long-established facts. It does. The question is whether this Council is ready to engage with reality as it exists. Somaliland's historical sovereignty, more than 3 decades of effective self-governance, and demonstrated capacity to act as a responsible international partner meet the legal criteria that guide recognition. Israel has aligned its foreign policy with this reality. This approach reflects the spirit of the Abraham Accords. It is grounded in international law and directed towards greater stability and security in the region. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Israel for the statement. The representative of Somalia has asked for the floor to make further statement. I give him the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President, for giving me again the floor. Before proceeding further, I want to make additional remarks in my capacity as a Somali representative of Somalia to directly address the claims made by the representative of Israel who spoke before me. I will make 3 points, Excellency. First, actions of occupying power in Palestine and indeed in the broader region are well documented. These actions constitute clear violations of international law. What we see today and time again are acts to terrorize civilian populations and crimes against humanity and forced displacement of a whole community, starvation of innocent people, and killing and maiming hundreds of thousands. And someone doing all these things are lecturing us today what they call genocide and things like that. I'm shocked to listen to the outrageous comments from the Israeli representative. If we want to talk about genocide, it's Israel that's committing on our own eyes every day. He represents a government that killed more than 70,000 people, civilians, including children, women, elderly, doctors, and other health workers, and patients in hospitals, destroying infrastructures, deliberately starving people of Gaza. To come before us, esteemed Council, and accuse Somalia of committing genocide is just ridiculous and it's unbelievable. The other thing that I want to add is he has no idea what Somalia is and where Somalis are and what Somalia stands for. I think the history is a selective history that he has just generated on his own mind. Let me give you some lessons on this. There is a systematic, it's a troubling, Somalia is one country, one people, one religion that fought together for independence from the colonial. And Somalia is again one that's fighting terrorist organizations in the Horn of Africa as a one group, one religion, one ethnic group. And then when you say the Somaliland, The Somaliland, that was a British Somaliland, it was two regions, the northeast region and northwest region. And now northeast region is part of, which is 45% of the land and the population are part of the federal government of Somalia. What we're talking about is northwest, which is also having a problem. Half of northwest is now older region, which is close to the Djibouti border. And they are totally against what the Isaq people that you say, Isaq genocide. And there was no such genocide in Somalia that took place. Somalia had a civil war, and the civil war has its own effects. And we believe the civil war was also financed from outside. So to come to this place and lecture us humanity and genocide and human rights and independence and democracy, and we know what you're doing on a daily basis, is just an insult. And I cannot take it without responding to this. I thank you, Mr. President.
I thank the representative of Somalia for the statement. I now give the floor to
and Palestinians. Denmark stands ready to support such initiatives and reiterates our steadfast commitment to the two-state solution as the only viable solution for peace in the Middle East. And I thank you.
Agradezco a la delegación de Dinamarca.
I thank the representative of Denmark for the statement. I now give the floor to the representative of Somalia.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also want to thank Deputy Special Coordinator, Mr. Alakbarov, and the ASG, Ms. Mirsuya, and Ms. Ashen of the Save the Children for their sobering briefings today. I have also listened carefully to the testimony of Mr. Ilana Gursky and sympathize with the suffering endured by her and by all the families in this conflict. Mr. President, we are gravely concerned by Israel's recent announcement to impose total military control over the entire Gaza Strip, as well as the expansion of the new settlement in East Jerusalem. We also condemn Israel's bombing of Nasser Medical Complex in Khan Yunis, which resulted in the death of innocent unarmed civilians, including doctors, journalists, and patients. These actions risk the prospect of achieving lasting peace and further compound an already dire situation in Gaza and the West Bank. The latest IBC report has removed any doubt about what's happening in Gaza. Famine is no longer looming. It's a man-made famine, and it's happening in Gaza. The death of children from hunger and disease is not a forecast, it's a fact. Entire families are starving in full view of this Council, despite the presence of international humanitarian system that could save them if only they were allowed to act. Let us be absolutely clear. Famine in Gaza is not an natural occurrence caused by drought, failed harvest, or sudden catastrophic beyond human control. It's a man-made, deliberately created through a siege, blockade, and systematic obstruction by Israelis. The international humanitarian law is explicit. The starvation of civilians as a method of warfare is a genocide and is prohibited. Attacks on objects indispensable to survival, food stocks, water systems, agriculture, medical facilities are prohibited under international humanitarian law. The Fourth Geneva Convention requires the occupying power to ensure the welfare of the civilian population under its control. Mr. President, Somalia stresses the following points. First, a blockade must be lifted, not partially, not temporarily, not heroically, but fully and immediately. Every day of a delay means more children are buried, more families are lost. Crossings must be opened and kept open. Second, humanitarian access must be sustained, predictable at scale. Aid convoys carrying fuel, medicine, and essential goods must be allowed to flow without arbitrary inspections, delays, or denials. Third, civilian infrastructures must be protected. Hospitals, bakeries, water networks, schools are not legitimate targets. Fourth, we call for an immediate and unconditional ceasefire and reiterate our call for an immediate release of civilian hostages and detainees. Mr. President, the images and reports coming from Gaza are not abstract. They are skeletal children without access to therapeutic food. They are mothers unable to produce milk for their newborn because they themselves are starving. They are hospitals turned into morgues because generators have run dry. This is the daily reality of the people deliberately held hostage to hunger as a collective punishment, which is a clear violation of international humanitarian law. What we are witnessing is not security, it's a collective punishment, and it's a genocide. Mr. President, we call on this Council to act with urgency and clarity, demand the immediate lifting of the blockade, ensure full, safe, unhindered humanitarian access by all routes and means, protect civilians and humanitarian workers without exception, call for an immediate and permanent ceasefire, and recommit to a political process that ends the occupation and delivers a just and lasting peace in the Middle East. Somalia reaffirms its unwavering support for the inalienable rights of the Palestinian people, including the right of self-determination to establish an independent, sovereign state of Palestine on the borders of 1967 with Al-Quds al-Sharif as its capital, in accordance with the relevant UN resolutions.
And that there is no genocide in Somalia because they are one people, they are fighting together, that when they were fighting for everything, they came together united as a people to fight for their own liberation and total whatever. And this is not the time they will now stand up turning themselves against each other. That these things that are happening in Somalia are foreign backed. So they are trying to make sure they destabilize the country. But there is nothing called genocide in Somalia. And that they will do everything possible to continue to fight to protect themselves and to live together united as a people. That if people are looking for people to tag that they are this, they should first of all tag themselves, because the whole world knows exactly what they are doing to other people, making sure that they allow children to even die of hunger. They are not allowing medicine, they are not allowing food, they are not allowing anything. They are causing a lot of pain to other people. Yet these are the same people that are pointing fingers at them in Somalia, that they are doing this to any other person. That they have lived together for a very long time, and they will continue to make sure they live together as one people. And they will never allow Somaliland to be a nation on its own. So for that matter, whatever agenda that they think they want to use the nation for, they need to wake up, because they are ready to make sure they fight for their unity, and they'll continue to unite to fight against any foreign interferences in Somaliland. And that is why always we call for the African unity, because if Africans were united under one leadership, I don't think that people can still come into the continent to be turning us against each other, because they have seen that it is difficult for the African to unite because of how we are allowing other people to manipulate us. That is why any other person can just get up and decide what they think is right in Africa. And even the so-called African Union, the so-called African Union is the problem of Africa, because with all the resources that we have, if African Union can still not fund itself to take decisions on its own as a body or as an independent body, why won't people come in to do what they think is best? Because they are the ones that are funding this organization. And that is the reason to which the African can never be independent, and we can never fight for that which we think is right for us. Why should we have all these things, yet people are coming into the continent, carrying them away, giving us peanuts in the name of funding? It doesn't make sense. Look at the gold we are selling, the timber, the bauxite, the diamonds, and all these things that we are giving out to other people for free. Can't we make money from it to fund our meetings, Must other people give us money, tell us what they think is right or what we should be doing in their interest in this 21st century? And how can you sit down independently to think about African progress? No wonder we are still where we are. And people continue to use Africa to their advantage. People treat us as if we do not have any right to decide on anything. You can't claim you are fighting for the unity of Africa when people are the ones that are sponsoring you. If we continue to allow people to fund our leaders, it means that you will always be accountable to them. And there is nothing you can ever do, to unite the African, because with them we can never find a solution to the African problem. We are always giving what other people think it is best in their interest, and that is why Africa, we are not moving forward and will continue to be here, and people are using us for their own selfish interests, and we must break away from it. It's not about sitting in your summit to be talking about the unification of Africa when you are not ready to use the resources in Africa to create revenue for your own funding to solve the African problem. If we continue to be depending on these people, this is how things will continue to be, because they give you and you must obey them. We are the only ones that can set ourselves free. United we stand, divided we fall, and united we keep standing forever and ever. The greatest enemy of the African is mental slavery. So let's decolonize ourselves from mental slavery. Let's keep sharing to educate our brothers and sisters. Together we make African great for ourselves and the next generations that are going to come. So that's the latest around the world, in Africa and in Somalia.